Hello, this is Raptorial. So, the Legend of the Five Rings game is finally out. It's actually, the card game is out. The Dungeons and Dragons-esque role-playing game will be out this year at some point. I'm not quite sure when. I believe it's in testing mode right now. And if you're not familiar with Legend of the Five Rings, it's a very Dungeons and Dragons-like game. The card game is something else, but there is a role-playing game, very much like Dungeons and Dragons. It's based off a mythological version, myths and legends version of feudal Japan. And in feudal Japan, the samurai, the ruling class headed by the daimyo, the heads of the ruling families, split into many different clans, all with different names. Legend of the Five Rings has 7 now, 8. I'm not quite sure where the Mantis stands now. I think they're not a great clan anymore, but we'll see. Simplifies it by separating into 7 great clans. There are many minor clans with lesser animal names, some of them. But 7 great clans based on animals, and they're color-coded, which I love because I love color-coding, like territories and characters. And even in the Yu-Gi-Oh! When I build character decks, I color-code by the color that kind of goes with the character. Kaiba as blue, Yugi as either red or purple, Merrick as yellow. I myself, my own personal deck, that's Dinosaurs and Dragons. I go with electric blue because that's my favorite color. So the clans of Legend of the Five Rings. The empire is called Rokugan, or the Emerald Empire. And the 7 ruling clans are the the lion, the crane, the dragon, the phoenix, the crab, scorpion, and the unicorn. Unicorn clan actually used to be called, in the lore, the Kirin clan, based off of the mythological animal, which is... It's unicorn-like. The actual Kirin is... it's a little more like a combination of a unicorn and a Mononoke-like forest spirit. Magic the Gathering actually has cards based on the Kirin, or Kirin, of its 5 different mana colors. A completely different game, but... So the card game was around, and role-playing game was around a long time ago, and the very unique thing is that players who would win certain events at tournaments and, tournaments and I think local events, and I'm not sure, I came a bit too late into the game to really participate in this, but I found it really interesting that players could influence the playing out of the storyline. I thought that was fascinating. And on the original website, I forget who the original publisher was, but you could go and read many short stories chronicling the events of the Empire, the Great Clans, and their battle against the evil of the Shadowlands. I mean, basically the zombie horde spawning and demon spawning grounds, and I think they actually had the equivalent, the Yu-Gi-Oh equivalent of a field card, what they call a stronghold, actually called the spawning grounds. That came in a starter set. That's basically what the Shadowlands were. I guess you could call it the Shadow Realm, though there was no Zork. The Dark Lord is called Daigotsu. Anyway, I'm getting into a lot of detail. And I'm super excited to begin playing the Dungeons & Dragons like role-playing game when it comes out, and also the. I'm going to start playing the card game next week. I just got invited to a group at the game store that I play classic Dungeons and Dragons at. The card game has changed a little bit from the version that was the original version. It's largely the same. I actually still have to build my own deck, and I play Dragon Clan. I play member of the Muramoto family because I love the dual wielding style. The I would call it twin blades, except it's not like paired lightsabers. It's katana and wakizashi, using both rather than keeping the wakizashi just as a sidearm. Again, I'm going into a lot of detail. It's the Niten style, and I really like that style. In fact, when I would play Daegorher, I wouldn't have foam swords. I wouldn't have the paired foam swords like a katana and a wakizashi. I actually went a little more the Star Wars route and built an electric blue double-bladed sword. I will twirl that around for you guys in a video at some point. Actually, I will show you guys my double blade for Daegorher. I can't help making lightsaber sounds, even though this is just pipe and foam. So actually, I will twirl it around for you guys in terms of actually not bad. And actually, on that point, before I get back to Legend of the Five Rings, actually, if you have kids, or are a kid, and they like toy swords, you get, and you don't have the money to buy sword toys or lightsaber toys. Hardware store, thin, plastic pipe, and pool noodles. This is actually, that's all this is. Pipe, 2 pool noodles. Actually, it was one very long pool noodle, and I cut it down the middle. Just made both ends together with some strong tape, duct tape, or something other. You can make far more versatile swords than anything you will buy in a store, and you can make them. You can make as many as you want. They're really not that expensive, and they're really easy to make. My brother has a. I prefer the thin, very maneuverable weapons. Actually, the hilt is a bit longer than I'd like, but it actually does work. My brother is goes for the more single blade, thick and strong, and he's got a purple blade. So we will demonstrate at some point. Okay, back to Legend of the Five Rings. This is the new rulebook. It comes in this box. I actually didn't get this box at Gen Con. I had to order it much later. There was a really long line to wait in, and I didn't have that much time. I also had to take a long train back home and didn't have any more room to take it, so yeah. I had to buy it a couple months later, but seeing as they actually, there aren't that many cards in here. They are slowly releasing the new cards, actually in the expansion packs. I just finished buying all 6. The game store finally had them. Let's see, I think in order of release, they're all available now, and I have yet to open any of them. I've just been so busy. First one I think was Tears of Amaterasu. So maybe I will make videos of me opening these and making a deck. Although it's really complicated, it might be too complicated to do that way. I might just show the deck I build. But first expansion pack was Tears of Amaterasu. I think the second one was the Chrysanthemum Throne. Does it say how many cards are in each pack? You actually only need to buy each pack once, because it's not like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering boosters, where you could get anything in any one of them. They're slowly making and releasing the cards. I mean, they just relaunched the game not even 6 months ago, so it was fun to talk to the panel. One of my favorite parts was the short stories that would be released, and I'm gonna get into those as well. But I might as well go through these. Third one, I think, was Into the Forbidden City. And if I'm getting the release order slightly wrong, that's okay. I mean, they're not going to be releasing the 7th one for a little while yet. So you got time, actually, if you're interested in Legend of the Five Rings and need to spread out spending a little, you do have time to save up for and buy all 6. I just kind of had to get them when I could. For Honor and Glory was the 4th. And let's see, I just bought the last 2. I think, which one came first? Doesn't really matter, I guess. Fate Has No Secrets. Kind of an odd saying. I think Fate has a lot of secrets. Meditations on the Ephemeral. It will be awesome to look through those packs and see what they have. So one thing I wanted to start doing for my YouTube videos, along with other topics that I'm doing along with other series, I'll be releasing my next fossil entry series with my talks on prehistoric creatures pretty soon. So for Rokugan, I wanted to make videos talking about the fiction, about the short stories that are released on the Fantasy Flight Games Legend of the Five Rings website every now and then. We're going to start with the core fiction. And I'm not going to read the whole story itself. They're only a few pages long. You should read them yourself if you're interested in this world. If you're not interested in this world, not much of a point, unless you just like storytelling. But it is very unique to the world. The feudal Japan, it also incorporates legends from it is very unique to this type of world, this feudal Japan inspired world. I mean, even stories set in feudal Japan, like Inuyasha, don't go into huge depth at how it worked. Now, I think this has inspiration from a few other East Asian cultures as well, but it's mostly a mythological feudal Japan. It's a very different tone than most fiction. Honor is a huge thing. We watch stories or read stories set in a medieval Europe-inspired world with knights, with the Knights' Code of Chivalry, and they try, or at least claim to try, to hold to a standard of honor. How much they succeed kind of depends a little bit on the story, and also, well, largely on the character. In this kind of world, how good the samurai actually were, who knows about honor. But perceived honor in the society is a gigantic deal, probably more so than any other setting. They take it very seriously. And one of the ways in the card games that you can win is actually through an honor victory, if they're still calling it that. I know in the original game it was... I think the way of winning that they removed was the rings. Because Legend of the Five Rings, what it refers to is... There's the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. Actually, I've got a copy. Let me get it for you. Okay, I got it. Actually, the book was up there. I thought it was over there, but anyway, Kitty, this is Blackie Berry. Book copy. Kitty, copy. So, this camera is hard to work with. So here is Musashi's The Book of Five Rings. Refers to, well, in the game it refers to 5 elements. Air, earth, fire, water, and void. This is a very interesting book. I'm not going to go through this whole book, but it is amazing. Musashi is probably one of the most legendary swordsmen in all of history, and I've learned a few things. Not that twirling around a double-bladed Daigorher sword is nearly as impressive, but you do learn things from ancient sword masters. In the game, the 5 rings refer to literal elements. In the book, and I will make a book talk video about the book at some point, they refer to philosophies of combat and of swordplay, as you learn from. So in the game, in the card game, there used to be 3 different ways you could win. One was an honor victory by gathering honor points, and I forget exactly how that worked. I'll be looking at it in the new version of the card game. I forget exactly how it worked in the old, because again, I came a bit late to the game originally. The second one was a combat victory, actually, in equivalent to most card games' version of defeating the opponent, defeating their field, their characters. And the third was if you played cards which had very specific, not that easy to pull off conditions of placing them on the field. And there was one for each of the philosophical rings: fire, air, earth, water, and void. And if you played all 5 rings, you instantly won the game. It was kind of the, I guess interestingly, the equivalent of Exodia or, well, Destiny board's kind of a cult, isn't it? But it was an instant win condition. So we will get to talking about the card game. I'll show you the Dragon Clan deck I built. I still have to open up all the packs. Talk a little bit about the Dungeons & Dragon-esque role-playing game when it comes out. I don't have a confirmed date yet. I don't know if anyone has. But it should be at some point this year. And one of my favorite aspects is the fictional world that players with victories and with events can actually influence. And the next video will be a vlog discussion of the first story in the core fictions.